Let's get to the bottom of this matchup and look ahead to Week 14 with Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer. Sheil, thank you for jumping on the Rude Guest Hotline with us. It's great to have you back on the show. How are you?
Doing well, guys. How you doing?
Great, buddy.
Doing great. Am I crazy? I like Dallas tonight, even though they are 3.5-point dogs. How do you see this one going?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I like that side as well. I feel like that Cowboys offense, I mean, with those two receivers and the way Dak Prescott's playing so far this season, I just feel like they're a tough matchup for really any defense. And then, you look at the other side of the ball, and the Cowboys defense was playing terribly, but they make the moves at the deadline. And I just feel like it's a massive game for the Dan Campbell era. They had their two shots. They got to the playoffs. They made a run. And now if they lose this game, they might have a hard time, or they will have a hard time even making the playoffs. So, yeah, it's a fun one. Backs against the wall, really, for both these teams.
I feel like Dallas actually has a pretty good chance to make the postseason. I don't know if it's not certainly not wishful thinking, because I'd like them to lose every game forever, but just in general, I feel like they're in a pretty decent spot. If they win tonight, I could absolutely see them at 10 wins, and that tie might come in handy for them. Give me your thoughts there. It's kind of a general temperature check.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's tough. You got to jump some teams. You got the Niners. You got the three NFC North teams. And so just in terms of that wild card spot, there are some teams that it's going to be difficult to jump. But I absolutely believe they have an opportunity. I mean, I think their offense is just playing at a top 5 level right now. And when you're playing that well offensively, you have a chance in almost every game. So they're just a different team right now than they were the first month of the season. So the margin of error is slim for them. I don't know if they have to win out or maybe win all but one game here. But, yeah, I do think they have a chance to kind of sneak in there and maybe be a dangerous team in the NFC playoffs.
Sheil, I've got two takes that are diametrically opposed, and I believe both to be true, and I just want to get your reaction, which is you can't give George Pickens $30+ million a year. That will blow up in your face. And also, I think the Cowboys have to pay George Pickens at the end of this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right about that. So there are a couple ways you can potentially do it. One of them is, are there things you can work in the contract? What are you actually concerned about with George Pickens? Are there things you can work in there where, hey, if he doesn't do X, Y, and Z, now all of a sudden that guaranteed money isn't going to be the same? Would he go for that? Or would he say, no, thank you, I will just go hit the open market and take a contract that doesn't have those qualifications? Do you use the franchise tag on him, where you say, hey, let's take this year by year. We will pay you for 2026, but we don't want to make a big commitment beyond that. And again, he might say, wait a minute, what are we talking about? The way I played last year, now you're making me play on the franchise tag. So I think it's a very tricky situation. Now, Jerry Jones has not been afraid in the past to take on those risks, really, for players that have done far worse than what anything George Pickens has done here. But yeah, I am with you. I do think it's a difficult decision negotiation for both sides there.
Pre-bye week, Dallas's defense, it felt like they were playing in the Big 12 in like the early 2000s, just giving up 40 a week, and it was a disgrace. All of a sudden, for the last month, kind of post-bye week, couple of trades, et cetera, even with that loss to Arizona, they've been even, dare I say, okay on that side of the ball. How real is that?
Yeah, they got guys healthy. They got Overshown, the safety. He's back. And then Quinton Williams has been the biggest addition. Now, listen, I didn't like that trade at the time, and I still think when we look at it 2 years from now, we go, man, first and a second they gave up to the New York Jets, but there's no doubt he is an impactful defensive tackle and has made a huge difference both in the run game and as a pass rusher. He wasn't having a huge impact with the Jets earlier this season, but sometimes it just comes down to environment and culture and how motivated a player is. So I don't think they're a great unit, but you don't need to be a great unit. In the NFL, if you have a top 5 offense with kind of a mediocre, competent defense, that's going to win you a lot of games. And I think that's probably more where they land here.
Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer with us here on Grant and Danny in DC. So Sheil, let's talk about the other team in this matchup, and that's the hosts, the Detroit Lions. I've been saying throughout the day, I know mathematically they wouldn't be eliminated, but if they were to lose tonight, I do think that they are in a really bad spot. They'd be 7-6 with the Rams hosting them next week, staring down the barrel with all their injuries, maybe of 7-7. And then even if you went out, you would need some significant help. And that means you're beating Pittsburgh and a Vikings team that took them to the brink here recently, and the Bears in Chicago, out in the cold where Jared Goff is not as good. Is this a gotta have it game for the Lions, or do you think that's overstated?
No, it is. I mean, you just look at the numbers, and I think, if they lose this game, I think their chances to make the playoffs drop to under, I want to say 20%, 15%. So it doesn't mean they can't do it, but all of a sudden it's a really uphill climb. And so this is a team that had championship aspirations before the season. I always like to do a thing where I say, all right, who are the teams that can actually win the Super Bowl, come up with 6 or 8 there? And they were absolutely in that mix, but I think you saw some of the change with their offensive line. You saw losing Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears. They got stung with injuries again on defense, which was a factor last year. And so some of those things haven't gone their way. So I do think this is a big sort of culture test in this spot where, what are you made of here? Are you still able to fight through this with the injuries, with the things that haven't gone your way, and come back and still make the playoffs? Or is this one of those, hey, we're taking a step back years and we'll come back next year and hopefully contend there? I think the result of this game will go a long way in answering that question.
The Ringer Sheil Kapadia with us here on Grant and Danny. Who's the best team in the NFC?
Oh my gosh, the best team. It's a great question, one I change my mind on probably every single week. I think I would still go with the Los Angeles Rams right now. If you made me pick one, I think they are a team where their offense is reliable week in and week out with their quarterback and their coach, and of course their wide receivers. So even if they have a game like last week where they turn the football over, those games can happen, but it's not like they got shut down. And so I just feel like against any defense in the NFL, I feel pretty confident that with McVay and Stafford, they're going to be able to figure some things out. Defensively, I have more questions, specifically with their secondary, but I think, all these teams have some kind of weakness. So I think I would still go with the Rams.
If you had an MVP vote, would you vote for Stafford or May right now?
I would vote for Drake May right now. I think he has been, I think he's earned it. I think if you look at it, I know they haven't faced the hardest schedule. At the same time, he doesn't have Sean McVay and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Like, I don't think that's a great situation in New England. The offensive line has been below average. You look at who he's throwing to, Stephon Diggs and Pop Douglas and Hunter Henry. I mean, this is not what anyone would consider a top 5 supporting cast in the NFL. So, yeah, there's still some time to go here. But if I had to cast a vote right now, I would go with May over Stafford.
Does Philadelphia figure it out, or is this kind of like 2 years ago, 2023, when we're going, maybe their demise is exaggerated, then they just crashed and burned in Tampa in that playoff game where they got woodshedded? Do they figure it out and make a deep run, or is this like a couple years ago?
Yeah, it feels more like a couple years ago. Now it's a little different. That year, the defense really fell apart, and the offense kind of gave you some hope that they could figure it out. This is sort of the opposite, where the offense here just looks like a complete disaster right now. It looks like they don't have answers. And so until they prove to me that, no, we can figure some things out offensively and we can have some tweaks and we can play well here, I'm going to assume that they don't have answers. And then they have the injury to defensive tackle Jalen Carter, which I know you guys just mentioned there during the update. I mean, that's one of their best defensive players who now is going to miss multiple weeks, it looks like, with a shoulder injury. So that defense I still like. I think they're well coached, but they're not as talented as they were last year. They're not as healthy as they were last year. So I think they still make the playoffs, but I am not bullish on them getting to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl.
Sheil Kapadia has done such good work for many years on the NFL, followed him ESPN, The Athletic, and now with The Ringer, joining us on Grant and Danny. I know recently you had done a piece and you guys had done a show on coaches on the hot seat. We were just talking along the same lines of like, who would we put in pen? Who would we put in pencil as far as who's getting fired? I wonder, though, what's your boldest, most out of the box or unpopular take as far as what is going to come down the pike on the coaching carousel?
Yeah, the thing I'm curious about, we don't have enough coach trades in the NFL. You guys are with me. You have to do a radio show every day. It'd be great to talk about.
Give us coach trades, man.
Yeah, give us some coach trades, at least some hypotheticals. We had the Sean Payton one, but I always look at that, and it's a little bizarre to me, that we don't have more, that you don't say, hey, I would give up a draft pick for this guy who could be my coach for the next 5 years so that I don't have to go out and just take a flyer on someone, take a chance on someone. So I actually look at this Ravens-Steelers game, and I look at two guys in Tomlin and Harbaugh that have been at their respective spots for a long time, have been great coaches, have both won Super Bowls, have won a lot of football games. But with Tomlin specifically, I look at it, And I say, man, if they just struggle down the stretch here and they don't make the playoffs and they've got no answer at quarterback for 2026 and they don't have a great roster and they don't have a great defense, everyone at some point in life, you say, hey, has what I'm doing right now, has it run its course? Should I look for something else? And I just wonder. I'm not predicting it's going to happen. I'm not reporting it's going to happen, but just in my head, I'm saying, I wonder if he's saying, all right, we've had a good run. Let's try something else. And would there be a team that would say, hey, Pittsburgh, we will give you a draft pick. Mike Tomlin, go have a great second act, and Pittsburgh figure out how to rebuild that roster.
One of those bizarre hypotheticals that wouldn't make any sense, but bear with me. Imagine you have to risk the entire Kapadia fortune, like the entire inheritance and everything that goes with it, on who has to win the AFC South. You got to go to the betting window right now. Who wins the AFC South?
Oh, my gosh. I would probably go with the Houston Texans. It doesn't even feel right coming out of my mouth there. I know that the betting odds would say that would not be the smart pick. They would tell you to go with the Colts or even the Jaguars. I can't go with the Jaguars. I think they're maybe the dumbest team in the NFL when you watch their games and just the way they play. So I'm not risking the billions in the Kapadia fortune on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then the Colts are just in a bad spot right now where they're trending in the wrong direction. Daniel Jones has this injury. Sauce Gardner's out. They've got a tough remaining schedule. So I know it's not a lock with the Texans. I still have questions about their offensive line and their offense. But you know what? They have one thing they can hang their hat on, which is they are a top 3 defense in the NFL. And so I think that keeps them in a lot of games. And so I think I would go with Houston.
Sheil, thank you for joining the show. Always great having you on. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Take care.
Check out his work with The Ringer. Kind of him to give us a few minutes here on Grant and Danny. We will talk to Robert Mays of The Athletic to go around the NFL to get ready for Thursday Night Football coming up at 6 o'clock today on a pigskin heavy G&D. Remember,